Yeah, here we go now, baby. Welcome to the Covers MLB Prop Picks program for Thursday, July 3rd. Great big show planned for you guys today. Beautiful looking board in Major League Baseball. Myself and John Metler with our best bets in the second half of the program today. Gary Sheffield Jr. will be by. We'll dip into all the big headlines in Major League Baseball. How about those Blue Jays? Let's go. We say what's up to the guys in the live chat. The dog days of summer are here. The big dogs and the little dogs are all out. What is up, guys? Drop your best bets of the day in the live chat there. We'll read a few off throughout the course of the show. Okay, let's not waste any time. Let's bring in my guy, John Metler. And John, I got to tell you before we get into the picks, one of the worst bad beats of the season. Probably the worst one I'm going to suffer all year. So I never really bet run lines, but I did last night. I had the Chicago Cubs -1.5 at the Cleveland Guardians in town. Just advantages everywhere. And they find themselves in a 3-0 hole. They quickly dig out of it. By the fifth inning, they're up 5-3. They maintain that 2-run lead right up until the top of the ninth. They're playing at home. First hitter comes up in air, but he reaches base. Couple more batters come by. Wild pitch. He gets to third. And, of course, they end up scoring the run. The Guardians do. The Cubs only win by 1. An absolute stinger. That is the way she goes with betting sometimes. 3-1 overall for me, though, yesterday. So we'll try to repeat that today. How are you making out today?
I was going to say, those are the worst ones when you have a run line because you can see it happening because
Yes.
you know they're just trying to win by 1. Like, they're trying to win the game, right? So even when you get like a defensive indifference or something like that, and you're like, I need you to stop that guy from scoring for my bet, but they don't care because they're just trying to win the game. It's the worst when you start to see that happening and you have that bet. But yeah, wild. When you say air, wild pitch, that is
an air,
a
wild pitch. Reed Phillips, he says, I was on that run line as well. That sucked. And on Monday, I had Patrick Corbin going under his total outs recorded. He's not pitching well. He allowed 3 earned runs, 9 base runners allowed through 5. They bring him back in for the 6th. He ends up throwing like 110 pitches. Just ridiculous. So I think I'm owed a little bit of good luck here tonight. So let's get right into it. 3 for me, 3 for John. I got a couple pitcher props. He's got some home runs, and Gary Sheffield Jr. will be by after that. Let's start things off in Arizona. I'm going to be fading Brandon Pfaadt. Starting pitcher here for the D-backs. And this is just a big fat fade to him. Not a whole lot of support for the team he's going against tonight, but hear me out here. So he's just been flat out awful, and there's no reason to think that the D-backs are going to want to conserve arms out of the bullpen. He's on a 6-game stretch right now where he's gone under 15.5 outs in all 6 of those games. ERA of 9.39 during that stretch. He's reached the 90 pitch mark just once during this span. And the team isn't keen on letting Pfaadt work out of trouble. A couple starts ago in Toronto, he was pitching half decently. He was into the 5th inning, only 2 runs allowed, 4 hits, and a couple guys got on base. They yanked him right away. So if he gets deeper into a pitch count, he finds himself in trouble. They'll probably look to yank him. Now, I'm not going to make a case for the Giants being some great offense, but their hitters have combined for a 367 average, OPS over 1,000 against him, and 30 combined at-bats. And they've been decent on the road over the past month or so. So we'll go Pfaadt under 15.5 outs. Okay, John, you got 3 home run props. What's the first one?
Yeah, we usually try to go for the night games just because it gives you more time to place these bets. But with tomorrow being the 4th of July, pretty sure a lot of people are not doing a lot at work today. So I'm going to give you a day game home run here. Starts at 3:10 Eastern. They're in Colorado. Isaac Paredes to hit a home run plus 517. We have bet him a ton this season. He just keeps showing up in the projections, having a really good price. Once again, you're seeing this. This is kind of, I found this at Pinnacle. Is kind of like a rogue price. Some spots are as low as plus 350. The projections have him about plus 325. So it kind of does make sense that some spots do have him at plus 350. He's going against Kyle Freeland. He's a right-handed bat. Freeland is a left-handed pitcher. Freeland is the right-handed batters are batting 340 against him on the year, just under 900 OPS. He's only given up 9 home runs, but 8 to right-handed batters. So you like that. Coors Field supposed to be 90, wind blowing out about 6 miles per hour to left field, which would be the pull side for Paredes. So just kind of stack all these together. Like I said, projections were about plus 325 there. So if you're seeing like plus 400, which you might see where you shop, you could still play it at that price.
Chris Contino in the live chat says Luis Ortiz under 17.5 outs is his favorite play of the day. I don't mind it. The Cubs offense is hot, but be careful. A stiff wind apparently blowing in at Wrigley there today. But yeah, Ortiz hasn't been that good lately either. So yeah, I don't mind that one. Okay, let's go to Los Angeles. The White Sox in town, a bit of a mismatch. White Sox versus Dodgers. I'm going to support Dodgers starter Dustin May over 17.5 outs recorded for him. He's been a much different pitcher at home this season. He's been awful on the road where he has an ERA over 6. It's 3.38 at home, where he does pitch a lot deeper into games as well. He's reached 18 outs in 4 straight starts at Dodger Stadium. And he has a really good opponent to continue this trend against here tonight. The White Sox have been awful on the road, 28th in OPS over the last month. They're ranked 29th in OPS versus right-handed pitching over the span. And through the first 2 games in this series, they're hitting 188. Not surprising. It is the White Sox. Dodgers do start a big series with the Astros on Friday. I'm sure they'd like to conserve some arms out of the bullpen. Especially with no starter named yet for tomorrow. So, yeah, I look for May to go deep into this game. I like the odds on that one, -105. JPC the fourth pointing out Dustin May to record a win, +110. I don't mind the plus money on that. Aaron Savali, I think, going for the White Sox. Average at best. So, not a bad look. Okay, John. Another home run prop. What do we got?
Yeah, I'm going to go Riley Green +316. Initially, when I saw this, I was like, ooh, that's pretty low for like where you usually expect Riley Green to be trading. But then you start to run through the numbers and you're like, okay, projections have this about +230. So there is a nice gap there. He's at Nationals Park. He's hit 4 home runs in his last over his last 4 games. He had 2 the other night at Nationals Park. So that also jumps out to you because obviously he's seeing the ball well there. It's going to be 85 sunny, wind blowing out to his pull side about 6 miles per hour. He has 21 home runs on the year, 20 against right-handed pitchers. He's going against Jake Irvin, who has given up 19 home runs on the year, which is a lot for a starting pitcher, 11 to left-handed batter. So the splits kind of line up. He's running really, really hot. He was also named an All-Star yesterday. So +316 does look pretty low, I would say, just from what you typically expect to see for Riley Green. But when you run the numbers and you see a +230, there's a gap there, and I'm going to take it. Yeah, he's on a major heater right now.
Okay, third and final bet of the day for me. We're up to Seattle with the Royals at 10. We're going to be back in Seth Lugo to allow fewer than 5.5 hits allowed. -135, a little juicy. I think it's a fair number, though. So Lugo is doing this thing again. We saw him have a great season last year. Kind of a breakout season for the guy in the mid-30s. He's pitching great again. He's coming off an incredible month of June where he posted a 1.26 ERA with fewer than 5.5 hits allowed in all 5 of those starts. He's been really sharp on the road lately, fewer than 5.5 hits allowed in 5 of 6 starts on the road, where he's allowing a batting average of just 200. Over the last month, regardless of location, he's allowing a batting average of 162. And the Mariners at home, they're a weird offense. They're so much better on the road. So check this out. They rank first in hits per game on the road. At home, 27th, where they have a 225 batting average. That's 29th in Major League Baseball. I also don't mind the under 2.5 earned runs allowed for Lugo, but I do like the under 5.5 hits a little bit better. Let's go Seth Lugo in Seattle. Okay, John, final home run prop. What do we got for number 3?
Yeah, speaking of Seattle and the Royals, I'm going to go Bobby Witt Jr. +540 to hit a home run. I feel like this is at FanDuel where I found this. I think they might have messed this up because Brian Wu was the initial starter. I think even if you go in your MLB at Bat app, you'll see Brian Wu listed, but they called up Logan Evans and they announced last night he's the one who's starting. And those are 2 drastically different splits here. Logan Evans, he is a rookie. He's given up 7 home runs, not many at bats, not many innings pitched though, but 5 to righties, only 2 to lefties, where Brian Wu was kind of like the opposite. He gets hit harder by lefties. So I feel like the +540 here, seeing other books trade this around +400. Bobby Witt projections has about like +350. So there's a really nice probability gap here. He's at T-Mobile Park, and T-Mobile Park for right-handed batters is about league average for home runs. The good thing for him though is Kauffman Stadium is dead last. You move him out of Kansas City, you put him in Seattle. You like the splits. He's also talk about another guy who's on a heater, not necessarily with home runs, but swinging the bat really, really well. the 3 games in Seattle, he had 2 hits and a walk yesterday. He had 2 hits the game before that and a hit before that. So I think he has like a 7 or 8 game hitting streak as well. So the bat's running hot. Hopefully we can catch a home run today. Plus 540. Love the price point.
Okay, Mason Unders in the live chat pointing out that he likes to parlay these pitcher not to get a win bets. He's parlaying Perez, Freeland, Elder, Irving, and Savale. So it's a 5-leg parlay. I'm kind of curious. I know all those are going to be big-time negative numbers. What does that work out to, Mason, if you want to let us know in the live chat? Just kind of curious. I like myself a good greasy money line parlay.
It's got to come back. When is it coming back?
It's coming back for football season. People have been on me. I'm going to bring it out of retirement for a 3rd time. Very excited. But it doesn't work for baseball, though. Maybe, though, with these pitcher not to get a win, that might be a market that we can dip into here in the dog days of summer. We need some action. Okay, that's it for you, though, today, John. John is going to be all over NBA Summer League probably for us. I saw him looking at the Summer League lineups there yesterday. So, John, before you go, let the people know where they can find you and your work here.
Yeah, you can follow me on X at John Metler. Always post bets. I think he's half joking, but actually will be betting on NBA Summer League. And last year they posted player props for NBA Summer League. So we'll get spreads, we'll get totals, all those things. They're kind of releasing the rosters here. So that's half joking, but also not joking. It's pretty fun to bet on last year.
Indeed. Yeah, some edges to be found there. So make sure you are following John. Okay, John will be back with us tomorrow. But until then, John, enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Good luck with your bets, everyone.
Indeed. Okay, let's get into the storylines. Let's get into the headlines. We got a lot to discuss here. Let's bring in Gary Sheffield Jr. You see the Yankee logo behind him. So let's get right into it. I'm a Blue Jays fan. We've discussed this. Absolutely flying high. I'm ready for it to blow up in my face, as it almost did yesterday. They almost blew that massive lead, but massive series in Toronto here, Gary. The Blue Jays have won 3. They're going for the 4-game sweep today. What are the vibes like in Yankee land right now?
You know, I feel like you watch that game and there were so many highs and lows. If you're a Blue Jays fan, you probably almost had a heart attack, right? You're watching this game, but in the end, right, John Snyder had that group ready to play, right? They tag up on a ball to the wall. I think most people thought this was a homer. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and George Springer getting from second to third base, and then the trail runner getting to second. You get a pass ball and a single, and you now have a 2-run lead going into the final inning. I mean, they did their job, and they're taking care of us right now. I know at the beginning of the year, I told you not to have any hope. We were talking Vladdy Jr. extension. Was it possible? What are they going to do with Bo? And now you look up and say the first place Toronto Blue Jays. So good for them. I'm happy for them. I was almost considering shutting that light off. I'm not sure what to do.
It was a gritty win, and teams of the past of the Blue Jays would have just completely folded. When Aaron Judge came up and hit that game-tying home run, I believe that was in the 7th or 8th inning, late in the game, the team would have folded, but they didn't. So, yeah, nice to see some grit out of the Blue Jays. So let me ask you, as a Yankee guy, you follow this team closer than anyone I know. What irritates you the most about the 2025 New York Yankees?
You just hate to see bad things be a trend, right? They're calling it the Boone swoon, right? Where in June and July, they just can't win a game. This was last year. This is the year before it. And this is the year that, and they lose Aaron Judge to injury in 2023, and they just can't find a way to win a game in June as a unit. They're just not playing smart baseball. They're forcing DJ LeMahieu over at second base. He's a statue. He can't move. They just play the same type of baseball around this time of year, and I just can't stand watching it. And anytime you see a coach, I just mentioned the Blue Jays manager, you like to see adjustments. You like to see players thinking, right? And just playing smart baseball. Smart baseball is not just for the past. It has room in 2025.
Okay, Gary, All-Star Game starters named last night, so we got to do it. People really go to town with, the snubs and who shouldn't be there. You kind of have to do it, right? So who got snubbed? Who's on the All-Star team right now that shouldn't be?
I'm probably going to go Steven Kwan. I've seen a lot of them, obviously, and can't necessarily say the American League East, but you feel like you do play Cleveland, and you watch it and say, well, he's one of the best defensive players they've got, And it just so happens in a game that doesn't care about batting average, his batting average floats around 300 every year, 6 homers. He's not a table setter. He's hitting second in that lineup, but his on base is highly impressive. And when you look at the overall package, he's one of the best baseball players over there outside of Ramirez. So very impressed by him. I thought I liked his numbers. I thought they were good enough to make it, especially over who he made it, right? Who made it over him. And that player who, by the way, I was rooting for, right? And I did talk to John just before we went live. Javi Baez, right? And I love the idea and the storyline, right? You sign a $140 million contract. He's hitting 285. This is way better production than I think anyone thought would be possible. He's got 9 homers. He's driven in 36, but that on-base percentage is 323, right? He's drawn 9 walks in 2025. Nothing to laugh at. He's certainly not the butt of any jokes, but did I have him at the Summer Classic? Maybe not.
Okay, so vibes in New York, baseball-wise, not great in general. We know what's going on up in Toronto with the Yankees on the potentially on the verge of being swept in a 4-game series, but not so good for the Mets here either. We thought they were going to turn it around a little bit. They had a bit of a swoon. They won yesterday, but they got absolutely humiliated in Pittsburgh over the weekend. They got swept by the Pirates. They got outscored 30-4 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. So, they won last night, but what needs to happen for the bleeding to stop? Because this is becoming a bit of a trend here for the Mets. They have not been good.
You know, they tend to go, I know everybody was sort of pointing the finger at Juan Soto, especially there at the start, and understandable, right? You see that deal, you'd like to believe you're going to live up to that. But I actually believe as Francisco Lindor goes, this team goes, and he's currently hitting second for this lineup. June 5th, he broke his pinky toe, right? Get on a hit by pitch against the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's not been the same player since. Now, you mentioned a big night yesterday. Well, just so happens Francisco Lindor was 3 for 4. He drove a ball out of the ballpark, multiple extra base hits. So, that was a big win against Milwaukee. But if this team's going to string anything together, you got to look up and see that smile from Lindor. If he's playing well, the Mets are fine. And of course, last thing I'll say is that they're playing the Yankees. You have to imagine this would be a nice shot in the arm for them.
Okay, so in betting, it's all about the number you're getting. The Mets really struggling right now. If the season did end today, they would be in the playoffs. I believe it's a 2.5-game lead in the wild card race. But for the Mets not to make the playoffs, plus 330 odds, is this a wager that you would entertain?
Honestly, you look at last year's team, you're an 88-win team, right? There's a lot of evidence to say, well, maybe you signed Soto. That's a big signing, no questions asked. But there's also a lot of volatility in the starting rotation, and you're probably gambling on a bit of that, right? And the Mets also are a plus 1,100 to win the pennant. So I think there's some value there. I'm not giving up on this team. I don't think by any stretch of your imagination people should be betting for this to fail. But there's certainly evidence in the past to suggest it may. So I'm going to keep a close eye on it. I think there's definitely some value with them.
Okay, let's talk about the team that they're playing this week, the Milwaukee Brewers. I believe that series is 1-1 right now. Suddenly, Milwaukee is surging. They're kind of like, they remind me of the Guardians of the National League. They're a team, it's like 2 out of every 3 years, I guess they'll be competitive. Maybe they'll get into the playoffs. If the season ended today, they would be in the playoffs. Anything different about the Brewers this year than in years past? I just kind of look at them and say, yeah, if they get in, they'll be one and done.
Yeah, they're just one of those teams where you feel like they overachieved to get there. And certainly they've got a 1-2 punch. And I think the difference right now, he actually just struggled in his last start, but Jacob Misiorowski has got some of the best stuff you've ever seen. And for those of you who haven't watched him, do yourself the favor. I mean, you're sitting over 100 miles an hour. Got one of the nastiest sliders in the game. It's at 96. It's just not the way the game used to be played. It's amazing to watch really the stuff that happens in today's game. But I really can't be surprised by this, right? And they've got Freddie Peralta. Like I mentioned, you've got Misiorowski, that 1-2 punch. And we've seen this before, right? You saw this with Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. They've had these type of combos at the top of the rotation. But once you start talking about 1 through 9, they don't necessarily have the offensive depth to carry them through. And you asked me a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, actually, about the Chicago Cubs. They're finally pulling their weight, right? The Kyle Tucker experiment is working. You have to applaud that, the aggressiveness, and that certainly has a factor in this whole Brewers thing as well.
Okay, Gary, let me put you on the spot here. So we talked about the Yankees. It is the Boone Swoon. I know you're high on the Tigers. The Astros, I know you're high on them coming into the season. We got the Blue Jays surging. And a lot that can happen before the trade deadline. If you needed to pick a team to win the American League today and represent the AL in the World Series, who would you go with?
I'm going with Detroit. And I don't necessarily love to just stare at the standings and say, okay, well, whoever's got the best record is going to come out the American League or the National League. But when you look at Detroit, they just tend to do everything right. And everything seems to be bouncing their direction. And as John said earlier, I mean, you don't want to see Tarek Skubal game one. It's not an advantage for anybody, right? And you're talking about Gleyber Torres, a player that my New York Yankees lost. He's having now a career year, not in terms of power, but just an overall asset, right? You're hitting for average. You're driving in runs. He's fielding his position at a decent clip. There's no controversy if he should play second base at all. And then, of course, I mentioned with my, obviously, some of my snubs, well, Javi Baez is on the end of that as well. Javi Baez is going to the All-Star game, right? And so it goes to show you they are getting production from different avenues. And, of course, when you have pitching and periodic production offensively, you're the biggest threat of all. And the American League is dismal this year. They're not very good. There are not a ton of names you can put in the Fall Classic. So, yeah, I'm gonna roll with Detroit.
Okay, last question of the day. So I'm looking at what's going on in the NBA right now. We saw the OKC Thunder. They're coming off a championship. They were really bad. It took them a while to get to this point. We saw them go into like a hardcore rebuild. And we see the Houston Rockets. They kind of turned things around relatively quickly after dumping James Harden, a couple of really bad down years. They're one of the favorites to win the championship right now. So in my mind, I kind of relate that over to baseball. And, rebuilding in baseball takes a very long time, especially if you're not a team that's going to spend the big bucks. But who's a team that's really bad or bad right now that you think could have a pretty bright future?
I mean, they're definitely not terrible, but I'm going to roll with Washington. And it was that big trade, right? You bring in C.J. Abrams. You bring in James Wood. He's got some of the best opposite field power I've ever seen, maybe since Juan Soto, just so happens, right? And so you look at that and they land on their feet with that trade. I think a lot of owners are always trying to sell, okay, we don't want to spend big money on this superstar. We'll let him go for this trade. Everyone always likes to believe this is how they're going to land on their feet. They're going to hit on multiple players in the same deal, and it just so happened to happen for the Nationals. And, of course, I still am a firm believer in Dylan Cruz and what he's going to do with this team. I love that pick. I'm still surprised to this day he wasn't a key contributor right away, but we've seen crazier things in this sport. Very difficult sport to play, of course. I think he'll be back in, with a vengeance. And then, of course, this team, and this is almost the most important thing with this whole, are they compared to Oklahoma City? In Major League Baseball, you still got to spend. And I think this team has shown they can win a big-time trade like this, and good for them, but they also are willing to spend, right? They've spent their money. Steven Strasburg, they throw their money at him, and it just didn't work out, right? And so this team's not afraid to spend on the right player. I think they're teeing themselves up for one or two big off seasons, maybe here in the near future, where you really start to look at the Nationals. You look at the NL East, right? The Braves are struggling. You look up, and there's a few weaknesses in this division. The Nationals have big reason to be buyers soon.
Yeah, what a weird team. I mean, they absolutely botched the Strasburg thing. They made the right call letting Anthony Rendon walk out the door, but it's got to be frustrating being a Nationals fan. Bryce Harper, Soto, Trea Turner, all on different teams, but not in the division, though, which is absolutely crazy. But, yeah, good returns on some of the players that they traded. So, yeah, we'll see what the future has in store for Washington. Okay, Gary, we will leave it at that for today. Great spot today, by the way. I would say good luck to your Yankees, but I would not mean it because I am a Blue Jays fan, hoping for that 4-game sweep. So thank you for joining, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again next week.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, podcast does better when we lose anyway, so it's all good.
Let's go. All right, let's go Blue Jays. All right, we will leave it at that for today for the Covers MLB Prop Picks program. Going to be right back with you guys tomorrow. Derek Hardy will be here with the Bad X, and John Metler and I will have our best bets for what looks to be a loaded board there on Friday. Okay, guys, enjoy the games today. Best of luck with those bets, and we will catch you again tomorrow.